What are we talking about today? Has the success of Omega's Seamaster Spectre changed the relationship between movies and watch brands? I'm drinking Blue Bottle's Hayes Valley Espresso. Cheers. So the pairings with watches in movies isn't new. In early films, the actual name of the watch would never get used. Instead, a character would use a similar name, but to the point where we knew what watch they're talking about. Similarly to today's sports movies, the actual sports team wouldn't get used. So instead of the Dallas Cowboys, it'd be the Dallas Sharks. Or instead of the LA Lakers, it'd be the LA Squid. To help illustrate how a character would use a different watch name instead of the actual watch, here's Rocky Balboa's faithful but crazy brother-in-law, Paulie, from Rocky 3.
3 years if you gave me a job? Really? This. You gave me a lousy stinking X-Lax watch. This.
Clearly, X-Lax is Rolex. And from there, it would evolve into close-ups of watches. And from there, watches would start to be heavily used in movies, basically being an important character in a movie, such as Casio, the way Casio was used in the movie Mine, starring Armie Hammer. And by the way, The Watch Geek did a really nice video covering the Casio in the movie Mine, or how Seiko was used in Robert Redford's All Is Lost. And from there, Omega took it to another level by partnering with the film's producers of the James Bond franchise in coming up with a limited edition Spectre line of watches. Before we get into the game-changing Spectre watch, here's a real quick history on 007 and his watches. Firstly, Rolex and Omega were not the only two watch brands worn by 007. Among the different watch brands were Heuer, Gruen, and Seiko. Yep, Seiko was a 007 watch. Rolex started to get used primarily because its author Ian Fleming had a Rolex Explorer at the time of authoring the books. And the Rolex Submariner that Sean Connery used in Thunderball, which he helped make really popular, was actually his own watch. So in Thunderball, he used two different watches. James Bond would use the Submariner to tell time and a modified Breitling top time when he needed a Geiger counter. Let's fast forward to 1995 to the present, where Omega became the exclusive watch worn by 007. Starting with Pierce Brosnan's GoldenEye in 1995. And for November 2015's Spectre, Omega partnered with the film's producers to make a limited edition line of the Spectre watch, which is an extension of the Seamaster 300 lineup. And they made 7,007 watches. The watch was released in October of 2015, and by the time the movie came out in November of 2015, the watch was nearly sold out. It was getting really difficult to try to find one. And by the time Christmas came out, the watch was completely sold out. All 7,007 watches were sold. And that was a big deal because that is not a small amount of limited edition watches, and in a matter of weeks, the watch sold out. At that time, the price of the Spectre and the regular Seamaster 300 were about the same. They were about $6,400, $6,500. But now today, on the pre-owned market, you'd have to pay a lot more for the Spectre watch. You'd be paying about $7,000 to $8,000. And for a pre-owned standard Seamaster 300, it'd be about $4,000. This would have been a really great investment. If I knew that at the time, I definitely would have bought one. And not necessarily because it made a great investment, but I actually like this watch. There are actually subtle differences between the standard Seamaster 300 and the Spectre watch. You can tell here mainly the lollipop seconds hands on the Spectre, and the bezel is different, and of course on the back it has the engraving of 007, and of course the complete packaging. The swift sellout of the Spectre is a big deal because it put other high watch brands on notice, namely Rolex. There has been some talk that Rolex was talking to the producers of Star Wars to make a limited edition line of watches the way that Omega did for the Spectre watch. Now, I don't know the reason that that deal fell through. There could have been a number of different reasons. When I first heard about this pairing, I really wasn't sure that Rolex would be the right fit for Star Wars until I remembered the Mickey Mouse watch, and then I could started to see this. At first I thought Tudor might be a better fit for Star Wars, but I think Rolex would have been the right fit. I don't know which line of watches they would have used. My first thoughts were the Submariner, but then I thought about maybe the Rolex Datejust 36 might be a really good fit if they want to try to reinvigorate the DJ36, because watch sizes are getting smaller, and in fact the 40mm Submariner is outselling the 43mm Deep Sea. So if Rolex wants to reinvigorate the DJ36, maybe a Star Wars line of watches or a limited edition of watches would be really great. Now, if part of the reason that this deal with Star Wars fell through is because they didn't want to take a page out of the Omega playbook because they're Rolex after all, and Rolex doesn't copy anybody, that might be the smartest move, because if Omega can sell 7,000 watches that quickly, imagine what Rolex could do if they really partnered with Star Wars. When I heard that the possibility of Rolex partnering with Star Wars, I started to notice a pattern here, and that both of these watch brands are not partnering with a singular movie, because a movie is a great risk. We don't know if it's going to be a hit, and movies in 1 week become old news because a week later a whole slew of new releases come out. But what these two watch brands started to do was started to pick franchise movies, and I can't think of a stronger franchise than James Bond, and Star Wars has a lot of life left in it, so that would actually be really good choices. But I got to thinking, if Omega and Rolex, or especially if Rolex was going to continue their partnership with Star Wars, if that was true, and thinking about big box office franchise movies, here's one thought and I don't know if this is true at all, I'm just spitballing here, but what if Panerai partnered with the Fast and Furious franchise? Because Panerai would have a really good opportunity here, because there's still life left in that Fast and Furious franchise, and largely because it has Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson, both who are really known for wearing Panerai watches. That would be a really good investment with Panerai, and it might be a good way for Panerai to introduce more of an entry-level watches, because the Fast and Furious is a young audience, and by introducing them to an entry-level watch with that movie franchise, Panerai might have some success with that. Let me know which movies and watches you think would make a great pairing. I'm going to end today's show on a little different note. A couple of viewers have sent me some really nice viewer emails with pictures of their watches, among other things. The first viewer is Bryant Root, who sent me some pictures of his Rolex. So I'm going to put that up right now, right after this show, along with James Reginald and his Meister Singers. James actually sent me a really nice email accompanying the pictures of this watch, but I don't know if he wants me to share those with everybody, so I'm just going to put up pictures of his watch, because I really appreciate that. And James, thank you also for offering to send me coffee. That was really nice of you. And by the way, Brian's Rolex, he also mentioned that it's for sale, so if you want to communicate with him or anybody, you can do so through the comment section. And if any of you also want to send pictures of their watches, because there's no official Facebook page yet for What's on the Wrist, I'll put them at the end of the video here so we can all share in whatever watch pictures that anybody else wants to show or share. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all the next time.